Get off of it,
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to worship this morning here at First Community Church. It's great to see all of you. How are you? You doing okay? Hanging in there? Buckeyes won yesterday. There's a positive. All right. Well, I'm going to invite you all to join us in worship. We're going to sing one of our fun songs. It's called My Lighthouse. So we just invite you to enter into the space as you are and have fun worshiping with us.
1, 2, 3, 4.
In my wrestling and in my doubts, in my failures, you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. In the silence, you won't let go. In the questions, your truth will hold. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore. I won't fear what tomorrow brings. With each morning I'll rise and sing. My God's love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore. Fire before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storm. Fire before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storm. Fire before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storm. Fire before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storm. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore. That's a fun one to sing. It's like vocal gymnastics. Yeah. I hope you have fun with it and the message of it. Just that in the midst of our darkness, God is with us. It's amazing, much needed. I'm getting a little bass feedback up here if you hear that. All right, we're going to do Come Thou Fount. It's actually the Come Thou Fount tune, but we're going to sing some different words today. And it's called Sing a New World into Being. It has some different lyrics, but to the tune of Come Thou Fount. So I think that most of us are familiar with that tune, and you'll catch on as we go. So just worship along with us as we sing these new words to Come Thou Fount. 1, 2. Sing a new world into being, sound a bold and hopeful theme, find a tune for silent yearnings, lend your voice and dare to dream, dream a church where all who worship find their lives and loves belong. Sing a new world into being. Sing as Christ inspires your song. Sing a new world into being, where each gender, class, and race brings its rainbow gifts and colors to God's limitless embrace, where the lines that once divided form instead the ties that bind. Sing a new world into being, risks transforming heart and mind. Sing a new world into being, where the homeless find a home, where all children never hunger, but are filled with God's shalom, where all people work for justice, where all hate and vengeance cease. Sing a new world into being, raise the harmonies of peace. Sing a new world into being, join the ancient prophets' cry for a time of health and plenty, where all tears have been wiped dry, when compassion flows like waters, pouring balm for all who grieve. Sing a new world into being, live the promise you believe.
Good morning. It's great to see all of you on this day here at First Community Church, and maybe I need to be bumped up just a bit. That's better. Stand on the stage, please. Okay. There's a voice of God from heaven saying, stand on the plate. Yes, Lord, I hear and obey. Let me try this again. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's great to see all of you here at First Community North on this cool, crisp, but beautiful fall day. Good morning to everyone who's joined us online as well. We trust that you'll sense the Spirit there, just as we do here in this place. I want you all to sign in right now, if you would please. We're going to put that code up on the screen so you can hold your camera up right now. Get that code in place. You can register your attendance. You can sign in for prayer concerns and prayers that you might want to, a request you might want to make. You can do that, and you can also give for the offering if that's the way you choose to do. It's so easy. I can do it. So I would hope that all of you will do that in that way. It really helps us keep track of who's around and who's attending, and it's and at the end of the day, it's a very pastoral thing for us to be engaged in. We'll keep it up there for a couple more minutes while we continue to go through the worship service itself. I want to remind you that we have concluded our giving campaign, which was titled Belonging. That has concluded, and we're some good news there. We're a little bit ahead of the average pledge at this point from last year. But some bad news, we're a little bit behind the total number of pledges that have been received by this point. So if we catch up to the total number of pledges, we'll be well ahead of where we were at this point as last year. So if you haven't yet made your pledge, we have pledge cards available out in Unity Lounge, or you can go online, and I think you can even get into the app today with that QR code and give in that way. Well, it is a good fun day at North. We've got a lot of things happening. At the 11 o'clock service, the Cherub Choir is singing. It'll be full of energy and lots of wiggly, cute little kids. At South, it's a good day as well. There's a baptism that's going to happen at the 10 a.m. service down there. The Cambridge Choir is back. But you're here at North, and we've got the Common Grace Band, which isn't a bad group. You can applaud on that line if you would, please. All right, and Stuart, I'm going to need to move down here to welcome a new member. This is a new member Sunday, and I would like to invite Mary Yost, if she would please, to come and stand here. And I'm going to invite TC, your husband, to stand next to you too. TC is already a member of the church, and we're glad you are. And now Mary wants to come and place her membership here with us at First Community. Mary, we ask two simple questions. Do you trust in God?
I do.
Do you trust in God as revealed in the life and the teaching of Jesus Christ?
I do.
Well, welcome to First Community Church as a member. We're glad that you're here, a part of this congregation. Would you welcome her as well, please? Our seminary intern, Jennifer Garvin, is going to give us two readings this morning. I want you to listen carefully for a couple of things. The first one is a bit of poetry by my favorite poet, David White, titled Before You Go. There's a call in there to be courageous. That's related to the sermon later on this morning. Listen carefully for that call as she reads. And then the second reading is from Matthew 22. It's the story of the Pharisees and the Herodians ganging up on Jesus to say, who do we give taxes to? Do we pay taxes to Caesar or not? It's a powerful story, one that also calls on us to be courageous. It's in between the lines, but it's there for sure. Jennifer, would you lead, please?
Please join me in reading our contemporary reading. Before You Go by David White. See, with every turning day, how each season wants to make a child of you again, wants you to become a seeker after rainfall and birdsong. Watch how it weathers you to a testing in the tried and true. Tells you with every falling leaf to leave and slip away. Even from the branch that held you, to go when you need to be courageous, to be like that last word you'd want to say before you leave the world. May God bless us in the hearing and understanding of this contemporary reading. Please join me in reading the gospel reading, Matthew 22, 12 through 22. 15 through 22. Then the Pharisees went and plotted to entrap him in what he said. So they sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians, saying, Teacher, we know that you're sincere, and teach the way of God in accordance with truth, and show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the Caesar or not? But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, Why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax. And they brought him a denarius. Then he said to them, "Whose head is this, and whose title?" They answered, "Caesar's." Then he said to them, "Give therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." And then they heard this. They were amazed, and they left him and went away. May God bless us in the hearing and understanding of this gospel lesson. And now it's time for the fifth graders and younger to please find their teachers who are waiting over here. Have a good Sunday.
God of grace and mystery, from your fullness overflows more than we can ever hold. Fill us with the melody, rising up to greet the dawn, joining in creation song. Holy, 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 holy.
Will you sing with us?
God of hospitality, here within the world you make, every creature finds its place. As we hear your symphony, call us now to join the dance, held and led within your hands. Holy, 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 holy. God creating all we see, all that lives beyond our gaze, fill the earth with breath and praise. Call us into harmony, teach us how to join with you, ever making all things new. Holy, 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 holy.
Let's begin this time of prayer in quiet and silence, please. Gracious God, on this day, we ask for your presence among us. Help us to see in the presence of another, in a smiling face, in the look of a friend, a reflection of your very image. Remind us of that great word from the beginning of the Bible, that we have been created in your image, and that every one of us, every one who's ever lived, lives and will live, carries within them the mark of holy creation. Holy One, we gather in this day as well, seeking a calling, listening for a command, yearning to be in line with your will, available to follow you wherever you may call us and send us. Remind us that that calling may simply be even in our own homes, where love is needed, where grace must be spoken, where forgiveness will be practiced. Humbling God, we know that sometimes we turn away in fear, that sometimes we take the easy way rather than the way of love. Sometimes we give ourselves over to power and control. We let anger and frustration form us and formulate us, so much so that we forget who we are and whose we are. Give us courage, God. Help us to be brave, to be your children, to be the ones that you call us to be, to indeed follow Jesus along the way named love. We pray all these things in the name of the one who taught us to pray by saying, Our Father, who art in heaven,
Oh, sorry about that. I was 14 years old. I'm going to go to the, are we good? I was 14 years old the year that the Vietnam War ended. It's 50 years ago this year. And I had several cousins and one uncle who served, and my church was active in the peace movement. We never talked about it in our family. Everyone was welcome at our house, and we were welcome at their house. But it was a confusing time for me. I knew that a lot of people were dying. In my family, the positive traits of my family are that they're good observers, good listeners, and good supporters. Through many conversations over the years, I have realized more about what happened in Vietnam. My cousins started talking only about 10 years ago. And I bring this up because we have an event coming up, the Central Ohio Veterans Stand Down, which is an event provided by a nonprofit organization, which you supported. And so we had about 30 to 40 people help to put hygiene kits together to honor veterans. And it was really a wonderful event. We had good fellowship. We put things together really fast, a lot faster than we thought. Glenn came and we were all done. We had a sandwich and a cookie or two, and we put together a total of 120 gift packs, 28 for women and about 82 for men. And so following the conclusion of this event, some of us lingered and we sat and we talked and we shared personal stories about how the Vietnam War had affected us. What I see in our congregation is that you have the positive traits of my family. You're good observers, you're good listeners, and you're good supporters. And this is important for our veterans now. We have a whole new era of veterans coming and that need its community. And so I ask you to support those veterans, their families, friends, and the communities around the world, and refugees who come to Columbus by giving. Please give as generously as you are able to support our ministries. Thank you.
One, two, three, 4, 5. Take it easy, easy. God already loves you completely. Take it easy, easy. rest in the shade of God's wings. Lay down your burdens and rest for a while. The shepherd who seeks you is gentle and kind. There's nothing to pay for and nothing to earn, and nothing you have to become. Take it easy, easy. God already loves you completely. Take it easy, easy. Rest in the shade of God's wings. Lay down the scales where you weigh out your life. The measures are empty, just leave them behind. The distance between God's two hands is enough to tell you the depths of His love. Take it easy, easy. God already loves you completely. Take it easy, easy. Rest in the shade of God's wings. Lay it all down, you brought to the fight. Lay down your weapons and lay down your strife. God's on your side and God won't let you go. God already loves who you are. Won't ask you to be something more. Take it easy, easy. God already loves you completely. Take it easy, easy. Rest in the shade of God's wings. Take it easy, easy. God already loves you completely. Take it easy, easy. Rest in the shade of God's wings. Rest in the shade of God's wings. Rest in the shade of God's wings.
Holy One of blessing and healing, let these simple offerings we bring here be a sign of the great glory that is due your holy name. Through Jesus Christ. Amen.
You heard the text earlier in the day. I'd love to preach a sermon right now on the importance of the separation of church and state. I'd love to give some theological background to that, maybe some political background to it as well, but it's not an easy thing to do. There's a movement right now in the United States called Christian nationalism. At first, that title was a critique, and the people who are in that movement kind of embraced it and said, yeah, we'll take it. We want to be Christian nationalists. It's the idea that church and state work together, that the church is even absorbed into the state, and then becomes the conduct of how government is put in action. I'd like to preach that sermon, but part of the reason I can't is practical. Which church is it that should be separate from, which church is it that should guide the state? I did a little work last week and found that there's something like 30,000, between 30,000 and 45,000 different denominations in the world. Which one of those denominations are we going to choose to be the church that works within the state? Or maybe there's only 1,000 different denominations in the United States, but again, how impractical is it for one of those churches to be the church that controls everything, that is at the center of the power of the state itself? Plus, the text we read today really isn't about the separation of church and state. Some folks have read that into it, that somehow this idea that, well, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's, that indicates a separation. In Jesus' day, they would have no idea about that concept at all. Religion and politics were enmeshed in many, many different ways. Plus, if you heard the story, it's a story about Pharisees, church, religion, and Herodians, state, or politicians working together to attack Jesus. This one that is sometimes called a prophet, this one is sometimes named, has just been named on Palm Sunday, a few days before this story, as the Messiah. They're out to entrap him. So even the text itself won't allow a sermon on the separation of church and state. We have seen what it looks like when the church is absorbed by a political movement. On January 6th, we saw on the day of the insurrection, the cross of Jesus Christ being carried as an inspirational symbol for violence. At first I was shocked. By the end of the day, I was angered. They took the cross, the symbol of the end of the myth of redemptive violence. They took the cross, the symbol of God's way, of God's loving way. They took the cross that stands before us in so many different places in our faith as a symbol of inspiration to us to give our hearts and minds to the love of God and to the love of neighbor, and turn it instead into a symbol to inspire violence. So trust me, I'd rather teach a simple sermon today about the separation of church and state and that idea. Or even I'd rather look at the text itself and kind of give what Tom Long, who's a really good New Testament scholar, what he calls a mild interpretation, a mild and easy interpretation of the text. That is, pay your taxes and serve God. That's a legitimate interpretation. It's a simple one, but I've preached sermons like that on this text before. Pay your taxes, pay them on time, file an extension like we did this year, whatever. Pay your taxes, make sure they're taken care of, and then go and serve God. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, sometimes I would kind of like to just give sweet, little, happy, peppy sermons about love and joy and everybody just getting along. I mean, after all, wouldn't you like just to hear a sermon like that once in a while, where it's just about sweetness and kindness and mildness and meekness and gentleness, and it's a cool, crisp day. The Buckeyes won a tough game yesterday. Some of you are happy about that. I think probably most of you are. Let's just have a nice little sermon. You know, I have a friend who in his annual evaluation, he was a pastor. I'll call him Alex. That's not his real name. In his annual evaluation, he was told by the personnel committee, you need to limit your sermons to 12 minutes. We'd prefer 10 max, but we'll give you 12. And they said, we want to have a joke in every single sermon. And we want you to just be happy and peppy and encouraging and inspiring. Give us an inspiring quote or two and then be done in 12 minutes. That's really what we'd like. My friend quit not long after that evaluation. He said to me, I wasn't called into the Church of Jesus Christ to feed the equivalent of spiritual baby food. I'm tempted. Honestly, I'm tempted to just give that same sermon I've given before in this text. This sweet and mild little one. We have a couple of quotes and we get on about our day. We beat the Baptists to brunch and there's not a second thought given to anything else that happened in the worship service. But the text won't let me preach that. If we look carefully at the text, we see a call and a challenge, almost a commandment to live in the way of Jesus. You see, these ones have come to Jesus, the Pharisees and the Herodians, to trap him. Now, who are the Pharisees and the Herodians? Pharisees are religious leaders. They can barely stand to be around the Romans, but they've learned to tolerate them because Rome had this practice in antiquity and in the days of the Roman Empire of letting whatever states they conquered to continue to practice their own religion, as long as that religion stayed out of politics, as long as that religion didn't get in their way, they were fine with it not attacking them either politically or militarily. Just go practice your religion and leave us alone. The Pharisees were kind of in that way. They'd carved out their place at the seat of power. Oh, sometimes they were attacked by Rome when they got a little bit out of that place, out of their lane, as it were. But they'd carved their seat at the table of power. And so have the Herodians. The Herodians were folks who really admired King Herod. Now, that might sound surprising to us, but Herod the Great and his sons who were ruling at the time of Jesus, Herod the Great was actually well respected in Judea at the time. Herod the Great, at the time of Jesus' birth, was a tremendous military commander. He often led his troops, his soldiers, into battle. He had great courage and good military skill. He was also politically savvy. He was able to work around Rome when the leadership and the power shifted and changed in Rome. King Herod the Great was able to keep his position in place in Judea. He was a marvelous architect, had amazing projects, including building a wharf, a harbor at Caesarea Maritima, and other projects around at the time of Jesus. Now his sons are sharing the leadership of Judea. Yes, propped up by Rome, but they found a way to, again, have a seat at the table of power. And they see Jesus coming in, and he's shaking things up. The people are following him. They're hailing him as a prophet. They're hailing him as the great Messiah. And they're worried. They're nervous. We're going to lose our ability to keep people under control. We're going to lose our power. And so they conspire against him. Did you hear the story? They come up to him and they begin by saying what? We know you are a great teacher. We know you show no partiality. We know you are a marvelous prophet. Beware, friends, anytime somebody starts out a conversation with you about how great you are. Always beware. Be careful. Put on the whole armor of God, we might say in church. I remember getting an anonymous letter once when I was serving the church in Atlanta, Georgia. I'd just been hired. I was 35 years old, been there about 3 months, when somebody left me a letter in my mailbox. I didn't know that it was anonymous because I didn't skip ahead to read to the end to see that no one had signed it. I just started reading the letter. The first 2 paragraphs were, oh, you're bringing great youthful energy to our church. You have a beautiful family. Everything is wonderful now that you're here. And I took it hook, line, and sinker. This is great. Boy, they really like me. And then it was 2 pages of single-space typed diatribe against my progressive theology and how I was destroying the United States of America. I didn't know I was that good. I preached 3 sermons and I'm destroying the United States of America. I called a friend of mine, a mentor of mine in ministry. I said, what do I do with this? Should I respond to this anonymous letter with an article in the newsletter? He said, no, don't do that. Do you have a shredder? So I put it in the shredder and let it go. It's the first time I've talked about it in 30 years. I put it in the shredder and let it go. They think they can come into Jesus and just prop him up with all this flattery and all this stuff, and then they're really going to nail him with this trap question. Do we pay taxes to Caesar or not? You see, if he says yes, he's in trouble with Rome. If he says no, he's lost the popularity of the people. But Jesus sees through all of it, forgets the flattery, and immediately says, did you hear it? You hypocrites. You hypocrites. So much for meek and mild Jesus. So much for a meek and mild and sweet and gentle little sermon on a cool, crisp day. It's Jesus calling them out right to their faces. You hypocrites. What is he doing? He's in a moment going to physically demonstrate why they're a hypocrite. Give me a coin. Takes a coin. Whose image is on the coin? Well, Caesar's. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Give to God what is God's. Simple level sounds like pay your taxes, follow God. Jesus is actually inviting us at a deeper level to make a decision. Are we going to follow in the way of power and control, a way that takes the cross and turns it into a symbol for violence? Or are we going to follow in the way of Jesus, in the way of love, peace, shalom, in the way of grace, faith, and hope. Which way are we going to follow? That's essentially what Jesus is saying to them in this moment. You see, they're hypocrites because the Torah, their own faith, says you are to have no graven images. None. They are in the temple. They are in the holiest place in the Holy Land. They reach into their pocket and they pull out a graven image, specifically taught against in their Torah, in their Bible, in the Hebrew Bible. Specifically says, do not carry those. Do not have anything to do with that. They are hypocritical in their faith and their practice, whether we're talking about the politicians or the religious leaders. They've sold out for the power of that coin. What Jesus wants to know with them and with us is, which way do you want to follow? In the way of power and control or the way of love? The summer before I came here to be your pastor at First Community, I was invited to be a keynote speaker at a high school church camp, Tall Oaks, just outside of Kansas City. The keynote speaker speaks every morning, starting on Monday at 10 for 30 minutes, and then it's 30 minutes of group discussion about the topics that were brought up in the keynotes. On Friday of that week, I asked the leaders of the camp, can I do a Q&A, 30 minutes of my keynote, and then do a Q&A with the kids? A lot of kids are asking me afterwards all kinds of questions. I'd love to do it live in the room. They said, sure. It was the last day of camp, last keynote, had a great time. These kids were amazing, super bright, super intelligent, highly motivated kids. And then we got into the Q&A. The first one was this young woman, maybe 18 years old. I think she just graduated from high school. She raised her hand and she said, Glenn, do you think the church is a failure? I immediately regretted having a Q&A. I said, say more about that. What do you mean? She said, my church is dying. The membership is shrinking. No one cares. It seems like the church in general in our country is no longer respected. Our message is not being heard. It feels like it's just dying. What can we do? I said to her, and really to every kid in the room, there's about 150 of them. I said, this generation of leaders has the gifts and graces that the church needs. But you're going to have to be brave. You're going to have to be brave. You're going to have to be willing to ask yourself, first, what in my life needs attention? If you can ask that question and reflect on it honestly, then ask the next one. Where does the world need what I bring? Your gifts are given by God, whatever they are. It may not be the same as somebody else, but you just need to use your gifts and ask that second question, where can my gifts go and serve the world? And then I said to the kids, you need to know, in my view, Jesus basically formed a youth group. I think Peter, the Apostle Peter, was probably about 17 or 18 years old. I think most of the disciples, both men and women who followed him, were young adults. Now, there were wiggly babies who followed Jesus, and there were slow-moving elderly folks who followed Jesus as well, and every age in between. But the primary ones who followed him, the ones who changed the world, the ones who got this movement started that exploded like wildfire around the entire Mediterranean Sea, I believe, in my view, were basically the youth group. And that youth group changed the world. Are we willing to do that in the name of love? Yesterday, over in the sanctuary, we celebrated the amazing life of Don Ross Sr. Don and his family moved here to the Columbus area in the 1970s, quickly became members at First Community. I'm not supposed to say this, but Don's son, John Ross, is sitting right over here next to my wife, Julie. John gave an unbelievably beautiful sermon that was both a pure distillation of the gospel of Jesus Christ and a marvelous honor to his dad, to Don. John told us in the sermon, he said, my dad was in the Seabees, in the Navy. He understood what it meant to follow a command. And in his life, the great commandment was the singular commandment that he wanted to follow as he gave himself to the world. What's the great commandment? Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. John said in his sermon, it was more than a commandment, though, in his life. It was a calling. It was a calling because his dad, Don, knew that every person he would meet needed to be loved because every person he would meet is carrying something heavy. You've heard me say that before. JR said that before in sermons. I first heard it from Dick Wing in 1982, attending a youth event that Dick was keynoting. And why do we say it over and over and over again? Because it's true for us over and over and over again. In the name of love, we've been called. John also said in this sermon that to know Don was to be loved by Don. That's the question before us. Are we willing to follow in that way? Jesus' frustration with the Herodians and the Pharisees, the church and state, the religious leaders and the political people, it's not about the politics, it's not about the theology, it's his frustration over they've forgotten who they are. They've forgotten the way, they've forgotten their own teaching, they've forgotten the same great commandment that Jesus named, which is in the Torah, which is in the Hebrew Bible. They've forgotten. And Jesus wants to know, are you willing? And he's asking us, are we willing to follow in this way? You're going to have to be brave. It's going to take courage. But the promise is we do not walk alone. Amen. Holy One of blessing, we ask for your blessing in this moment to open our hearts and minds to the leading of your way, that we might truly, truly follow you. Amen. In this time, we always pause at the end of the service to take a moment while the band plays a little bit of music for us to light a candle. It might be for a loved one, might be for you, it might be for the church, might be even for the world. Whatever your prayer is, take some time, would you please? And light a flame against the darkness.
going to sing a verse of this, and it's in that the new lyrics we learned today. Let's sing this together. I think it's up on the screen. Here we go. Sing a new world into being, where the homeless find a home, where no children ever hunger, but are filled with God's shalom, where all people work for justice, where all hate and vengeance cease. Sing a new world into being, raise the harmonies of peace.
My friends, let us leave now, secure in the knowledge indeed that God is present with us along the way. There may be moments when we feel as though the Spirit is not there, but trust, believe, and hope that in simply giving yourself away in the name of love, you will indeed be empowered by that same Spirit to continue on. God bless you, and amen.